Good morning to you. And wow, when you talk about the Orioles, they had the biggest turnaround in baseball last year. But is that sustainable this year when they were 3 games short of making the wild card, but now they've had some roster changes?
I think it definitely is, and a big reason for that, the whole season turned around when Adley Rutschman got called up last year. They were 16-24, and then they ended up finishing with 83 wins. There wasn't as much activity this offseason as we would have liked in Baltimore, but the moves that they did made were incremental improvements, where you brought in Kyle Gibson, you brought in Cole Irvin. Both of them have had strong starts. Brought back in a Michael Givens, James McCann to back up Adley Rutschman. Robinson Chirinos was a nice veteran piece for them last year, but the records for when he was starting compared to Adley were very poor. Adam Frazier at second base, replacing Rougned Odor. And then you also got to remember all of the prospects on the way. The Orioles, number one farm system in baseball.
Yeah, so what's the thermometer on the Orioles this season? Because I was listening to Kyle Gibson, I think, talk about the season, and he was saying, listen, I'm excited to be a part of this team and a part of something where it feels like you're building from the ground up, and you've got all of these young guys that are so excited to be there. And listen, like, this is a team that nobody is expecting to, be a part of the postseason, but they have a lot of talent. What do you think the thermometer is for the fan base, for people who watch the team? Is there excitement here?
Well, I will preface with this. I'm not sure if you guys have been following this whole Lamar Jackson story, so that's kind of overshadowed everything. But no, there's plenty of buzz surrounding the Orioles. This is the first time that they're entering a season with expectations since 2018. And, of course, that year ended up blowing up in their face when they traded everybody at the deadline. But we had Mike Elias on our show, and I asked him the question because he kept saying his first 3 years, wins and losses don't matter. Wins and losses don't matter. It's about player development. He said their expectation is playoffs. And you can hear this clubhouse very much embrace these expectations. And part of it is that they are so young and maybe don't even know, but this is a year where they're not going to catch anyone by surprise. I remember, especially early on last year, where they're playing Toronto or just any team in the American League East, and you hear opposing managers and opposing players say, there's a different vibe about this team in Baltimore, and they're not going to sneak up on anyone this year, but I think – you guys would know more than me. Their over-under win total, I think last time I checked, was 74 or so. I would hammer the over.
We're talking with Tim Barbalace, host of Inside Access from 2 to 6 p.m. on 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. Also host of Baltimore Game Day from 6 to 7 on the network as well. Tim, when you look at Major League scheduling, it's going to be different this year because, as you know, there are going to be less games played within the division. And this is an Orioles team that was way over 500 when playing outside of the AL East. How much is that going to help them this time around?
I think it's definitely a huge factor, right? I mean, you're not going up against the Yankees and Blue Jays and the Red Sox we expect to be down this year, and the Rays. It just seems like everyone's waiting for that year where they fall off, but they always find a way. I mean, it's absolutely going to benefit them, but I would also even say last year they played the Yankees early a lot, and that kind of lopsided the record against them. But elsewhere, look, they were one game under 500 against the Rays. Toronto, they were right there. Boston, they were right there. But make no mistake about it, the more balanced schedule, it's absolutely going to help the Orioles.
All right, so let's talk about the strengths of this team. What's going to be the calling card of the Orioles this year?
Well, the calling card of the Orioles really bullpen was huge for them last year, and we're going to see how we know how volatile the bullpen can be. But I'm looking at the outfield as their strength, and you got Cedric Mullins, who's back from the WBC. Austin Hayes is still there. Anthony Santander hit 35 home runs last year. Kyle Stowers got his feet wet in the majors last year. And also a name to keep in mind, Colton Cowser. He's in AAA. He could be getting called up soon. And Heston Kjerstad, who second overall pick from a couple years ago. He got set back with myocarditis. He suffered a hamstring strain last spring training that put him on the shelf for a couple months. He's been absolutely raking in the Arizona Fall League in spring training. People think that he's going to be on the fast track and might reach the majors this year, but their outfield depth is really, really good. And just defensively, I mean, their infield, where Jorge Mateo, he didn't win the Gold Glove, but definitely a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. Gunnar Henderson's got phenomenal defense at third base. Ramon Urias won the Gold Glove last year. He's not even going to start for them. And Ryan Mountcastle, he's had much improved defense at first base from a couple years ago where we didn't even know what position he would play.